I'd like to call order this joint meeting of the Norwich Public Utilities Board of Commissioners and the Sewer Authority for Tuesday, January 27th, 2026. Quickly run this meeting online. I'd like everyone to announce their name and titles before speaking if they are joining us via WebEx.
Right now, it's just that.
Okay, no problem. So, moving right along. So our 15-minute comment period. Are there any members of the public here in person or online who would like to address the board? Okay, before you start to address us, I'd like to remind anyone who would like to speak tonight that there is a time for public comment, not a discussion or back and forth with the NPU board. The issues raised by the public during this period will be considered by the board in consultation with the staff at the appropriate time. To be respectful of everyone's time this evening, any public comment should be limited to 3 minutes. So with that being said, who would like to go first? John. Mr. Nystrom, how are you, sir?
Chairman, how are you? Pete Nystrom, 36 Laurel Heights Road, Norwich, Connecticut. I have a quick purpose. It's twofold. One, I want to extend my thanks. My last 8 years serving as mayor, working with this board has been nothing but a joy. And the work that you've all accomplished, the work that you continue to provide for the city, the leadership you demonstrate, the decisions you made, and they're not easy decisions. They're not inexpensive, but you're maintaining the system. And that's so important. You look around us and other utilities and you look at what they haven't done or what they're trying to catch up on now. That will never be said of Norwich Public Utilities. But that's because of the leadership here in this room, including all the staff that's here that makes it also possible. A little old background of my family. My father sat in this very building for over 33 years in the electrical department. He was hired by Ted Broad in 1950. So now I'm really dating myself. I wasn't there, but I'm aware of it. But I just wanted to come down and say thank you. I also wanted to be here as a member of the board of the Leffingwell Museum. We have some other distinguished members over here in the corner. We're all extremely grateful for the support that all of you have decided to provide. The Christopher Leffingwell Museum is extremely important. We just celebrated our 350th anniversary here in the city of Norwich. History is alive and well because of the people, the dedicated people like those who I think you'll hear from a little while later. But I just wanted to come down and say thank you on both fronts. And while I can, I want to thank Kevin Brown, who's over here as well, president of NCDC. We all make an amazing team because we choose to be one team across the city. So that's why I was here and I'm done. Thank you. I hope I'm.
Thank you. Thank you for your service, Mr.
Just as a quick side note, Peter's father and my father were watch engineers at the same time at NPU. So we were on different shifts, but working together.
All right. What else we have for public comment? All right.
I'm going to let you go first because your comment was positive. My name is Mrs. Williams. I am a mother and professional educator. I am born and early raised here in Connecticut, Bridgeport. I've been away since kindergarten, but I'm back here teaching in the public schools here. And I am a new NPU customer since October of 2025. And so I'm here today. I was coming in at when my bill was had gone up just like about 100%. But now I'm here because it's gone up over 300%. My first month was under 100. My second month was over 100. My third month was over 200, and now my fourth month is now over 300. I don't have to tell you, I'm a mother of one daughter and a professional educator. I can barely, pay for my own electricity bill, but I feel as though my meter may be aligned to maybe some other units in my apartment building where I am living, and would like to request that someone come and do an electric meter efficiency check and find out if there are any leaches that have attached their electric usage to my bill. 300% increase in just a couple of months seems, to say the least, expensive. So I'm here to see, I grabbed a couple applications for some rebates, and hopefully I apply, hopefully I, qualify, for some of those rebates. I don't know if I do, but I certainly know that I stay in a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, just myself right now because my daughter's in college. And I don't have a TV. I don't cook that much, except maybe twice, 3 times a week. I do warm up food a lot. And I don't have an electric, portable heater. So it seems as though there may be some, I hate to be accusatory of people, here or there, any, illegal criminal activity with, price gouging or doing, some illegal electric recircuiting or knowing how to set someone's electric meter to multiple units. And then the person who, pays their bill, no matter, really what the cost it is, gets stuck with someone else's bill. I just want to make sure that my meter is set back to 0.
Yeah.
And that I'm paying just for my unit.
Right.
And if I hit the lottery, or, if I get a windfall of, a lot of money, of course I would, say, hey, let me pay for a couple of units, especially during the winter months when it gets, hot. But at this point in time, I'm still a professional educator, and we still know what professional educators, are paid, at least, right now in the state here too, and many others.
Is it just electric on your bill
Um,
that you're paying?
I don't know. I don't have any gas, so
Okay, no
yes,
gas,
I
so
don't have
it's,
gas.
and it's a multifamily, so probably the water is paid for by the landlord. That'd be my
Yes.
guess, that's
Yeah,
how you
yeah,
do. So do you have electric?
Yeah, I've done a little research in the building, so there are families, 4-person family with dogs, so 5 really,
Yeah.
that have a less bill than myself. And I'm teaching, right, so I'm not there all day. Even when I am there all day, I like the natural light, so
Do you have electric heat that you pay for? Or is the house all running off one furnace type thing?
it's an apartment.
Right. But do you have electric,
Yes, no, just one.
but it's electric things for heat on the wall, kind of type of thing, okay. So,
And
so
I
we have that.
and I keep,
Service that we do to go check out there.
So basically, and I understand we've got your address and your contact information, so we can follow up with you. Did you get that?
I know I'm going to email it to Bill.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So we have between energy efficiency, also our field service team, and then we can go out and investigate this. And then, usually it turns out to be something obviously can be corrected. Beyond the meter, we don't own necessarily, but let's see if that's even the issue.
Typically, if it's an older home that was typically a single family and it's divided up, one of the things that, I'm an electrician for over 50 years.
Okay.
I look for to see, is there an owner meter there?
And I don't know.
Well, that's one of the questions you ask me, because sometimes when they convert them to apartments,
Yeah,
not every circuit is properly identified in everybody's box.
okay,
That's one of the things that I saw in my career.
okay.
I know that bills are going up high.
And that's what that, and I've called you.
Because if I watch it, because I live alone as well.
Yeah,
I cook with propane.
Yeah.
And my bill last month was $163. And that was high for me because I use double the water, because a couple times a year I use a double. And the rest of the time it's a single unit of water. And typically my bills are, even with air conditioning and cooling, so in the summer, it's about 200. And I know that we recently had a rate increase. So that may be part of your increase, maybe some of the rate increase. It didn't affect me all that much.
Yeah.
I think it was $20 or $30 tops.
Yeah.
And I've gone away just like you, and a couple loads of laundry, I have laundry and everything's there. So either somebody may have tapped off of something there. I'm not making an assumption here. I'm not making 100%. That's a possibility. You could have loose connections in your panel, that electrician could go there and tighten that up, because a loose connection draws a lot more current than a tight connection.
So the bottom line is, you're not the first person to have something go wrong like this.
Okay,
You won't be the last. We have approved people who personally come out and work with you and identify. I want to be careful not to speculate what's going on, because then sometimes it turns out to be something totally different than what we think. We don't have the information.
I just know there's some, and I know that I shouldn't be paying $400.
Nothing is ever gonna go up hundreds of percent.
Yeah.
It just, that doesn't make sense. So
If I got
that's,
150%, I said, oh, now that it's 300%. I said, if I got
something might be wrong.
And to know too, that, knowing that, I have heard that, NPU provides, the best, electric service, when it comes to, the best rate and the customer service too, so, in the state of Connecticut, So my experience, these last couple of bills is not that, so that's, one of the reasons.
So now, we can work with you. So just make sure before you leave, someone over here has your contact information, so we can get in touch with you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Well, Ms. Williams, you handled that very well with the quorum. Because if my bill was 300%, it might be a little bit different. Than
It's good that you came in, made the effort to come in.
Well, the funny thing, I was gonna come in, when it was up 150%, but I, they got away from me, so I missed the last 4 meetings, so now I'm like, oh my goodness. I wanna stop it at 300%, you know what I mean, and bring it back to normal. Okay.
Well, thank you for your time and your concerns. Is there anybody else who'd like to comment during our 15-minute public comment period? All right, anybody else? No?
Starting your first.
So with that being said, I'd like to move on to the approval of the minutes. I'd like to move on to the approval of the minutes. I'd like to now accept the motion to approve the minutes from our last regular meeting of the NPU Board and Sewer, which was back on November 18th, 2025. And we had a special meeting held on November 3rd, 2025. With a single motion, these minutes can be approved with one vote. I get a motion to approve the minutes for 18 from the 3rd. Got Bob on the approval, seconded by Stu Peele. Any discussions on our,
I got a few corrections.
okay, Mr. Bill?
Right, under item 1, it's a Shawna Bont, A-B-E-N-T, right?
A-B-E-N-T. Yeah, someone's throwing my name on?
And under item 8, it's Mike Andriana, I think with 1 N. And then under 9, item 9, under Board of Utilities Commission's resolutions, voted in by Vice Chairman William Wasika Peel.
Go.
That's a heck of a commission.
All right.
All correct that time, you know how it is, Bill. All right, so all those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
As amended.
As amended.
As amended, thank you. All those opposed? No. Any abstentions? The motion passes to accept the minutes from November 18th to the 3rd. So much. We move right along to action item number 4. We will now announce NPU's award of 2 tax credit contributions through the state's Neighborhood Assistance Act, which allows NPU to provide up to $150,000 in contributions to qualified local nonprofits in lieu of making tax payments to the state of Connecticut. This great program allows us to keep significant funding here in Norwich to support energy efficiency projects with community partners that ultimately help them save money on their energy bills. Tonight, we are joined by representatives from 2 of our longstanding community partners, the Leffingwell Inn. They received $100,000 with Robert Lab, and Eastern Connecticut Housing Opportunity, $50,000 with Julie's Sedan. Sedan, I say it right? 7. Sorry. All right, so. Okay.
Remember?
All right, so I'd like to invite our guests to provide us with a brief overview of their projects and the impact this funding will have on their organization. So anybody from the Leffingwell Inn would like to step up and talk?
No, Ron.
You go floor is now yours.
I'll go up with you.
All right. Hello, thank you. I wrote something about right. Right. As you know, as you just read off, you and Peter announced earlier that you guys were gracious enough to help us with our heating system. We have a building that dates back to 1675. At its core, it's still 1675. Our only source of heating was the heating system that let go last January. We had a gas leak. One of our members walked in, found the gas leak. You guys showed up gracefully with the fire department to help us out. Turned out our system had a failure in one of the devices that are no longer available on the market. We don't know how old our heating system is. We're guessing between 1960 and 1970s, mid-70s. None of the contractors could tell us how old it is, and none of us are the original stewards of the building. Unfortunately, most of them are gone now. I would say, basically, I'm just going over a couple things. You know, our contractors basically said we're not gonna be able to find any parts for this, which basically turned out true. The repair was minor. We found a good contractor that spent the time to find the issue, sort it out, fix it. So after 3.5 months, we got our heat back on after a few frozen pipes and other repairs. Due to the cold, we're back up and running for now. But once it breaks again, the heating system's 100% gone. We're a small agency. We work off of private donations and our emission fees. So to fund something like this would take us years to recoup the cost. And then somebody directed us to the MPU system with the state. We sat down with a few representatives of you guys to guide us through the system along the way. And fortunately, working with you guys and the state, we were granted the funds to replace our furnace. On my side, personally, thank you. You guys have always been a great agency to work with. I'm also in the fire service. We work with you guys every day. No issues on our end. And thank you for the assistance. And this is probably one of our largest grants ever for the facility. Like, we basically get by in like 30 grand a year, and that's digging deep.
Generous.
Generous. So she has a couple statements just to say about the museum itself, but thank you very much.
Yes, hi, I'm Joanne Marola Martin, and I am the secretary with the Board of Managers of the Society of the Founders of Norwich, and we are the owners and operators of Leffingwell House Museum, as well as a museum on the green, the Joseph Carpenter Silversmith Shop, which should go visit sometime. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about the place where our lovely new furnace will be, and I just can't even tell you how much we appreciated it. Leffingwell is a significant historical site in Norwich. It offers a window into early American life and architecture. It was originally built in 1675 as a modest two-room house by Stephen Backus. It was acquired in 1700 by Lieutenant Thomas Leffingwell, who was a member of one of Norwich's founding families. By 1701, Leffingwell had obtained a license to operate an inn there, and it transformed the residence into the Leffingwell Inn, and it became a central gathering place in the community. The Leffingwell family expanded and modified the building throughout the 18th century, and Thomas Leffingwell's son, Christopher, who was an entrepreneur, played a pivotal role in supporting Revolutionary War efforts by supplying provisions to Washington's troops. Today, as a small house museum, Leffingwell has collections of period artifacts featuring exhibits from Norwich's founding through the Civil War. Please consider visiting us. We are open seasonally from April through October on Saturdays and all year by appointment, and we'd love to see you. And again, thank you so much. Can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that information about the Leffingwell. And congratulations on your award. The picture in front of the world too.
Can I give a little woo-woo?
It's cold out for me, it's 8 hours. So I understand your excitement and your jubilee for sure. So I'm understanding that Eastern Connecticut Housing Opportunities is not here this evening? No. Okay.
I'll check on that, but they confirmed they would be here to do that, so hope everything's okay.
Okay. They can join us next month. So with that being said, we're gonna move along to agenda item number 5. It looks like we have Kevin Brown from NCDC and would like to give us an update on the happenings of NCDC. Welcome, Mr. Kevin Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me here. Oh, don't show, don't, there we go.
Sorry.
Let's spoil the lead there. No, don't show that.
Sorry.
Let's look at the, let's pass those out. And, just as we roll into this, the former mayor stole my thunder because I was going to start by saying what many of you have grown accustomed to hearing me say, and that is this economic development stuff is a team sport. And, NCDC is a pretty small team, and without the extension of our capacity through the city and the municipal directors, and NPU and all that NPU does, we would be able to get anything done. So I appreciate you, Mr. Mayor, for Mr. Mayor, I can still call you Mr. Mayor, for pointing that out. That teamwork is really what's made things happen for us. I also point out that, I had a really interesting first meeting with this group of folks in this room when I think it was Chris Riley passed me a 8x10 glossy picture of my grandfather working in this agency back when it was called Norwich Light and Power. I don't know who surfaced that or why or how, but it still hangs in my office to this day. And I just want to let you know that Bob, Peter, my grandfather was probably trying to keep your dads in order. Right, so the setup here for this evening is we are en route to our annual meeting on Friday. And the annual report that's in front of you with my crayon draft across the front of it is because we're still at the print plant getting the actual reports run. So there may be a stray ampersand or period or a pie chart with the wrong numbers in it. I know that's true. That was corrected before we went to print. But it gives you an idea of what's going on. And I think what I'd like to do is just sort of scroll through the report and use it as a guide to talking through what 2025 looked like. We can skip through the mission and the table of contents. I just want to focus on 2 things on the president's message. And that is last year I told everybody it was a year of change. This year, my message to everybody is that this is the year of momentum. And I'll go so far as to say irreversible momentum. And if you look at that chart on the left-hand side here, that represents roughly $43 million worth of grant activity that NCDC has helped to shepherd. Now, we didn't do all the grant writing, we did most of it. We're not doing all of the program management for all of those. Other people are involved, city municipal directors are involved. But we sort of were the tip of the spear for coordinating the effort to go after these grants. And it has put us in a position, as you can see by those completion dates in the legend of that thing, to complete a lot of things in 2026 and on into 2027. Let's keep rolling through this thing. So next up is the live portion of it. And, it's in front of you. You're welcome to look through it, but here's the bottom line of the live portion. There are about 80 units that have come online in the downtown in 2025. The 42 units at Water Street Lofts are active and fully occupied. I may be off by 1 tenant or 2, that there's movement, but they typically are at 40 to 42 of those 42 rented. The 9 units in what was formerly known as the Stackstone properties, never to be uttered again because of the sordid history of how that project didn't go down on Lower Broadway. Those projects are complete. Those 9 units are done. Those 9 units are occupied. And the Reed and Hughes building in July was a great strategic success because we were able to point the governor at the fact that we were able to complete the first residential project that was funded by the Community Investment Fund program right here in Norwich. So we came and celebrated with us. That added 17 more units to the downtown. So that's what 2025 did. Heading into 2026, Waterworks is the development organization that has purchased and is currently demoing 101 Water down on Water Street. Their path is to be done by the end of this calendar year. That path is shifting, it'll probably be the first quarter of 27. But that represents 61 units right along the water, right across the street from Howard T. Brown Park. And then finally, a long time in the making with phases that began a number of years ago on the North Mill. The South Mill project, despite the soil remediation issue that they are still working through out there on site, on the interior, that structure is 95% complete. And in fact, Friday, that's where our annual meeting is going to be held, so that folks can get a look at an apartment, a pickleball court, and then we'll go over this entire report all over again if you want to come back and stare at it with me a second time. Keep going, please. So that's the live section. Oh, one last thing, cannabis is an important topic from a economic development and business standpoint. But what we're calling out and highlighting in this particular report is the fact that we're finally at a point that we can turn some of these municipal tax revenues back out into the neighborhoods and make an impact the way the public law said that we should. And so, once again, Team Sport, a committee of directors from NPU, the city, and my NCDC team walked to the Greenville neighborhood with the Greenville Neighborhood Revitalization Zone leadership. We identified about a dozen things that are on that map that we're going to invest about $125,000 of that cannabis tax revenue. Under work, a number of things. First and foremost for everybody, of course, is Ockham Industrial Center. Quick aside. So I was in a local board meeting. Let's see, how many local boards are there? I was in the Otis board meeting. This is calling it. And there was a classic technical glitch, and some of us were in the room and some of us weren't, so we were kind of passing the time, just talking to each other. And one gentleman said to me while we were waiting for everything to kind of straighten itself out, he said, "Kevin, how's that NCDC project going?" And I had to laugh, because we don't just have one thing going on at NCDC, and it really it signaled to me that, everyone thinks that Ockham Industrial Center is the only thing we're doing. And while it is certainly, without question, the most important thing we're doing, as I'll show you here, as we'll talk about when I wrap, we've got a lot of things going on at any one given time. But Ockham Industrial Center is the most important. This time last year, I had reported that we wanted to be, if not complete, at least completely underway, fully underway on creating the road, Ockham Way into the Ockham Industrial Center. A number of hiccups in the staffing with the Office of Safety and Traffic Administration added about 6 to 8 months to that. I'm happy to report, as I stand here with you today, that we have emerged from that step 2 process. For those who have lived in that world, we're out of step 2. We are entering step 3 this week, and the runtime on step 3 is about 6 weeks, which puts us in, the beginning of March, when we'll actually be able to go to RFP, secure a construction firm, and in this spring construction season, mobilize and start building that road. And then you all are very aware from conversations we've had in this room, some of them in executive session, that we have a very significant Fortune 100 company under a purchase and sales agreement, and that proceeds also very well right at this point. And I'll tell you that it's our forecast that by second quarter of 2026, April, May, June timeframe, we should finally be in position to build make public announcements and discussions of that particular tenant. But that's not the only thing that's going on here. We have a German biomass company interested in one of the lots along the highway. We have an aerospace engineering firm internationally that's interested in another one of those sites along the highway. And then we have local and regional dairy farmers and construction firms interested in some of the other back lots. So we've got a lot of good hooks to get the lots sold. That diagram on the bottom right is really there just to make you go, what is this? All right. These 26 months of working with the Department of Transportation results in that level of traffic engineering and design. There is a lot of work that has gone on, and back to NPU's important role in our overall team. You guys have helped fund that work, and we appreciate it. You've got that timeline in front of you. You might not be able to see it well on the screen. It's in the copy there, and it really, thank you, Sumo. really just says that we had that delay, but now we're finally, as I said to you, out of step 2 and now just pending approval at the step 3 level and start building the road here in this season. So that's the one project we're doing at NCDC. Meanwhile, we've had the Norwich Revitalization Program underway for some time now. And at your leisure, you can check out that growth tree that shows how for one federal dollar that came out of ARPA that we invested in any one of a number of small businesses and medium-sized businesses, there's a $9 return in the aggregate across all those projects. And importantly, from a federal timeline standpoint, the federal government required 100% of that funding, that ARPA funding, to be obligated by the end of this past year, 25. We met that. And they expect 100% of that money to be fully out the door and spent by the end of 2026, which we are just beginning. We are already 90% spent. So this project has been managed very well. I just got to give kudos to Scott Lassard, one of our contract consultants from Leading Edge. He's just been a rock star in getting that done. And that does tie, though, to the end of this conversation, where I every year have an ask of you guys to help us keep sustaining this work. Paying that individual to help us manage these ARPA dollars was initially funded by those ARPA dollars. But now that those ARPA dollars are fully obligated and the work is underway, the ARPA fee has wound up. Yet we are still managing those projects to completion. So that's just one example of the kind of thing that is a mission growth component of what NCDC has been doing. You can just kind of go through there's these guys at the marina, the restaurants, Four Seasons, fully built out. There is the property at 5961 Broadway, formerly known as New London Mutual Insurance. Beautiful work, beautiful job done on that one. The YMCA project is starting to come together. And then here very recently, we were able to lean in at the last minute with some of those dollars that had not yet been obligated and help out a project across from Dacus that also brought another structure back to life in our downtown, in our city, I should say. Next up. Okay, and that's all we're doing at NCDC. But then there's Foundry 66 and all the work that Mary Riley does in that co-work space. When I first got here, people would say, hey, is that an incubator? I'd say, no, it's just co-work space. All we're doing is giving people keys to an office. I've either learned or we've grown. Either way, we are an incubator. Between the working lab that is executed inside of that ecosystem of Foundry 66, or a number of different technical assistance efforts that Mary and others undertake on behalf of any small business that comes and visits us, we can say with confidence that we're operating an incubator down there at Foundry 66. But that's all. Oh, wait, no, then keep going. There is, we've already talked about cannabis, and I know that's high on your radar. Because, let's stay there. Did I say it like that? It wasn't even intended. What is it? Play on words. Look, from a municipal tax revenue and impact on neighborhoods standpoint, I talked to you about what we're doing there. From the standpoint of Norwich Public Utilities and its hope for significant electrical usage and growth, we're stalled. But that's not because of Norwich. That's because of a statewide sort of slow rollout of this program. This industry really hasn't taken off as it was intended. But the good news is we do have, as you all know better than I, frankly, because you're down there flipping switches and doing check-ins with them. 115 Forest is now finally generating some power and growing product. And we are staying closely tuned to 115, or to 5/8 Street. They put their capital in New Jersey first, and they're holding this project off, but they're not leaving, they're not gone, and that project is going to come to fruition as well. And then just some of the other things we're doing on the side. Anybody who's not met him, young Lucas Kaiser is out there, creating uniform signage in downtown. There's a few examples right there on that page. We can keep on rolling through that. And then there's the play side of life in our city, led by Bobby Brayboy and Global City Norwich. A number of different things, not the least of which are the individual acknowledgements of this highly multicultural community that we have, and also recently funded our partnership with Rose City Learning Center that's providing workforce language skills to immigrants that need to find jobs where they can communicate in the workplace. There's also a partnership with Nordic Public Schools. And then this upcoming year, Senator Austin and Representative Wilson were able to secure another $675,000 for Norwich Community Development to really extend and expand its community outreach. Beyond the business development and economic development side of our mission, we now have significant capacity to fund and support a number of community-facing programs. Let's keep scrolling through all that. More of that. Read this at your leisure. You can come back Friday and listen to me talk about it again. And then kind of the last section of this report is the reimagine. What's out there? What's next? You know, we got stuck to Dodge Stadium, and I say it like that kiddingly. I did that to myself. I watched the progression of the conversation, a number of Monday evenings in the city council chambers. I could see that there was a passion for baseball. I was concerned that the stadium might get knocked down for what would only ultimately be about 125,000 square foot warehouse, which we have plenty of spaces in Ockham Industrial Center to do that. And as a result, NCDC has been engaged in a number of significant and potentially transformational conversations about what the future of Dodge Stadium might hold. I really can't go beyond that, but things are in a good place in terms of what could happen with and for Dodge Stadium. Reimagining Lower Broadway, we want a grant to rehabilitate the Fairhaven. That's an architect's diagram what the front view looks like. $2.5 million. And next week, David Kors from the Connecticut Municipal Development Authority, the CMDA, is going to come to town, and we're going to talk him through how he can bring the $60 to $90 million fiscal capacity that his organization has to help this and other projects in the city develop more housing, and much of it downtown. State Hospital is kind of languishing in the moment. This time last year, we had just taken possession of it. Middle of this year, we earned $100,000 remediation assessment grant from DECD and the Office of Brownfield Remediation, and Ty and Bond is queued up and contracted to execute that, but we're just not quite there yet. And I think finally, on the Reimagine side, a little bit about that CMDA process. When this organization, again, this time last year, we put a hook in David Kors, the executive director. It was him and himself. There was nobody else in the organization. And we dragged him to our annual meeting last year, and we said, we want to be part of this. We were one of the first 5 communities in the state to opt in, and we were one of the first 10 to actually establish a memorandum of agreement and create a district within which investments in downtown development can occur. Long story short, we've put ourselves at the front of the line again. Just like we did the Community Investment Fund grants, we are now at the front of the line on the CMDA capacity. That's a good thing for all of us next. And then, of course, finally, the waterfront. There wasn't marina towers, now there's not marina towers. There wasn't fuel, now there is fuel. There wasn't a 4-season restaurant, now there is a 4-season restaurant. There was public recreational capacity back when Ron Eliano had a putt-putt golf course and boats, and then there wasn't. And now this year coming, we'll be in the business of, go ahead and scroll down a little more, developing that combination splash pad ice rink just next to Mi Encanto, just down the slope from where the old putt-putt golf course used to be. We have bi-weekly meetings with SLR International. The folks that built out Uncas Leap is the same organization that's going to help us build out this space right here. So that's our annual report, 3 times faster than I'm going to do it on Friday morning. Let's key over to the other deck. You're still showing it.
So I've got a quick question.
Sure. This is going to be a quick run through. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
For you and for Jeff, the big project at Ockham Industrial Center, from what I understand, they've been refining their potential power needs.
Yes.
And we have a pretty hard number from them at this point.
Yes.
Which is, I think, 8.5.
Yes. It's not the 25 we thought when it first rolled out, but it's 8.5, and I'll let you guys set the stage or the context for what that
We're
means.
with the funds that the board approved 2 months ago now. We're in the process with our engineering consultant of designing the feasibility study to figure out exactly how we're gonna feed that. So getting this hard number is really allowing us to focus that design versus trying to plan for everything.
Yeah.
Now we can really plan for what's gonna happen. And obviously, the remainder of the, you have other irons in the fire for the remainder of OIC, so we'll be able to sort of all of that. So this is actually, it's in a good range, for making this happen quickly.
But 8.5 is what percentage of our overall?
It'd be like a 13% load increase.
Yeah, I mean, that's really significant.
If you think about when we lost Freeport, right, that was our biggest load, that was close to 6 megawatts. So this would be north of that. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the glossy report that's gonna get handed out on Friday. Here's the not so glossy report card, right? So this time last year, I said, these were our objectives for 2025. Just work with me and just click as we go one at a time, right? So the first thing was the American Rescue Plan Act. We wanted to have it 100% done. We ended up, we're at 90. That's not too bad. Give me a click. There it is. See, there we go. All right. Business Park North. We wanted to have the road constructed already. I told you that we ended up in a Connecticut Department of Transportation, pun intended, do loop with the roundabout committee, because there is a roundabout and it's not, I'm not kidding. We went through about 9 rounds of staffing. We've exited the rotary and we're moving forward, but we're not quite there. We're a bit of delay. But this is going to be the year. This is the year when we will start the road, and we've got to close on that purchase and sales agreement just based on the due diligence period that was established in the first place. Cannabis cultivation, you can go ahead and click that one, Simone. I say delay, but it's green because the retail has progressed to where we thought it would. The cultivation is a little slower, so that's why it's kind of a mixed result on that one. Next up, we said we would get a grant to rehabilitate Fairhaven and Jubilee Park. We got the grant for Fairhaven, and we have a pending application right now for the pocket park right next door between Castle Church and Fairhaven. We're hopeful that we're going to find out in March that we're going to get that. Waterfront, we don't need to go back over it. All the good things are happening. Next one, Thermos. We've got within the next week or two, Ty and Bond will be actively, SHPO gave us clearance to knock down the glass factory at the far end of the condos down there. And so that work's going to begin, and the integrated day charter schools RFP is actually out on the street. So we did all of the staff work in 25 that we wanted to get us to this point. The work will actually happen in 26. Reed and Hughes, great ribbon cutting with the governor, 15 or 16 of 17 units occupied. And the first floor retail space probably will be occupied second quarter at the latest. Next, grant management. I opened this up by telling you we've been able to accumulate $43 million worth of grants with the applications that we turned in for the city of Norwich. And amongst this group of Norwich people, I'm just going to tell you, we're punching way above our weight. Did Bridgeport, New Haven, and Hartford score more grant monies? Yeah. Are they 2 and 3 and 4 times bigger than us? Yes. We're doing pretty good. Little City of Norwich is doing great things. Norwich State Hospital, I told you all about. Water Street Loss is full. Not though, that's where the delay in there. Not though on the first floor retail. That's kind of lagging. Got to stay on it this year. Community engagement, we continue to use our Envision 360 page. We've solicited some very significant feedback using that online engagement platform that has helped us in our grant applications because we can demonstrate that we've created a two-way dialogue in the community. Fiscal management, we're behind, flat out. I'm just telling you right now, we have, as a reason, good news, bad news story, right? We have a significant number of state and federal grants that we've earned. It's increased the complexity of our audit process. The firm that we hired that told us that they have and could handle those is not working out, and we are changing courses in right now. YMCA is moving along pretty well, but not to where we thought it would be when we started the year. Panema, some of you will be there on Friday, 95% complete on the inside, folks. I know that the dirt thing got the headlines, But meanwhile, in the background, the inside of that 100-plus-year-old mill has been turned into 130 compartments, and they'll be ready in about a month. Chestnut Street Mill, it's always been kicking around. And just kind of take a look at this, right? These priorities are ordered this way because that's how we have the capacity to keep attacking them. We're pretty deep in the batting order here right now, but we have some good things ahead, I think, for the Chestnut Street Mill in the future. Mercantile, we weren't able to get anybody in there. Foundry Capital Improvements took a back seat. Foundry membership is way up, highest it's ever been, and our gross revenue out of the Foundry and our extended Foundry on Ferry over at 257 Main above Sen Bank is way up. And next, there ain't no strategic plan. Next click. Hold on. All right. My own board has heard me say this a number of times. We're so busy doing things, we don't really have time to sit around and talk about it. And strategic plans are important and necessary, but if you look at that blue box at the bottom, we are operating strategically. I might not be able to grab a piece of paper off the shelf and tell you how we're doing it, what we're doing it, because all those things in that green box, community investment fund, we're punching above our weight. Building sustaining relationships, I'll turn to the former mayor, since he is not the mayor and doesn't have to say anything good, bad, or indifferent. But I think you'd agree, Mr. Mayor, that up in Hartford, they know who we are and what we're doing.
We not only receive the water grants, but the money goes into circulation. Projects are started. You talk to the big 3 cities across the state. They can talk about hundreds of millions of dollars, but what have they actually done with the money? In most cases, almost nothing.
And they're
not moving. That's a huge difference. And this governor understands that Norwich moves the money the way he wants it to be, in circulation, in production, in creation. That's a huge difference.
And it's what's helping us gain more ground on future grants. Hunting pig elephants and selling the city, that's what's behind the green curtain right now. We've got a couple of really exciting things that I hope will get us around the corner here in 2026. Let's just click on through the rest of that so we can wrap this up. Oh yeah, so the point of these green banners that are dropping on here is, meanwhile, things that weren't on the hit list at the beginning of the year that have fallen into our lap, right? The CMDA, Pocket won't be easy. The Pocket Park grants, the music district grant. We're gonna have a music district starting next Friday night with the first Friday in February. And then that project piece funding that I told you about. And then the next or last thing is, and all the while, even though there were some Fs and Ds on that report card I just showed you, NCDC was recognized by the Eastern Connecticut Chamber of Commerce and the Connecticut Economic Development Association as the best in the state. So, but our work's cut out for us. That 26, I'm not going to go through it ad nauseum, but we've restacked. The only thing I want to point out on this is where for the last 4 years, we've leaned on the ABCs of economic development because it made for a cute stacking of little baby building blocks and it kept us on track. We're done with that. We've got a different priority, and much of it is CIF 2030 grant based. Next. So what does that mean for the conversation with my partners here at NPU and with my partners at the city? Statement of the obvious, we never have enough money. But what we do is we close the gap because some of these grants that we pursue, we can score a fee for the administration of them. Unfortunately, at the same time that we've been operating that way, DECD has clamped down and you can no longer qualify administrative and operational costs for managing the grant. Pick one, I don't care which one you pick. The waterfront at Howard Brown Park, right? $6.55 million. It's all going in the ground. And none of it is helping to pay for the time that Scott Lassard and I spend on actually managing that project with and for the city of Norwich, just as one example. So last year, that delta between what our core costs, prime cost centers were, and what our revenues were was about $153,000. But again, whether it's Project Wildcat, which you folks know about, or Ockham Industrial Center, or the Brownfield grants, which can come with an administrative fee, we were able to shrink that. This coming year, that gap has grown to 206. It's a combination of things, certainly program management that I keep going back to. You know, and having the staff to be able to manage this growing mission set, marketing, and then audit, right? To be quite frank about it, last year, I think we probably were penny wise and pound foolish on our audit firm selection because we tried to save some money where we were. So that $206,000 delta will be tough for us to close just based on grant administration fees for anything that's out there that we don't know about yet, that we might have to score some fees. So last year, the split, if you will, was the city paid NCDC $240,000 to operate, and NPU paid us $300,000 to operate. This year, we're going to go to the city and request $290,000. Last year was a tough tax year. This year's not a whole lot different, tax revenue year. So I don't know that we'll be able to get up to $290,000. I am not before you asking for you to make up the difference. I'm really just highlighting the gap so you understand what it is that we're wrestling with as we try to do all the same things we did in 2025, again in 2026.
Well, Kevin, just for what it's worth, I mean, Jeff and I are the two NCDC reps, and last year we increased it significantly. NCDC NPU is making hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars on your successful projects. So
Ultimately, maybe not today.
the money that we pay for staffing is an investment that pays off significantly. And Jeff and I talked about potentially going to 325, not the large amount, as large amount as last year. But we do need to continue to support you, I think.
Well, that's certainly for your executive.
This is
decision.
why I wanted you to come in January so we could get this, as we develop our internal budget. And we get a chance to have some conversations in the executive session and whatnot. Bob and I talked about it a little bit offline, but we certainly recognize the need. And that's why I thought it was important that you came early and get that, get that out there.
Eating up a lot of your agenda time. Any questions before I step back? Sir.
Shipping Street, Terminal Way.
Yeah.
It's very near and dear to my heart because I used to be the chairman of that Harbor Management Commission. I also made an appointment to see you, and somehow it didn't work out. I'd like to know if you have an open door policy where I can talk to you.
100%. I tell everybody that all the time, and without a tale of woe, I don't have an executive assistant anymore. So if the email that you sent went unanswered, that's on the gun. But anytime, any place, I mean, you work with.
I'll reach out to you, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you.
please.
One of the things I want to speak to positively too is just the routine close communication our organizations have, the city. We have our city-wide meeting every week. I know I've talked about this a million times, but I can't understate the value of that. And then you, myself, and Deanna meet every other week, in addition to our roles on NCDC, just to make sure that we're giving timely attention to things. It's a very dynamic world we live in, right, with economic development, and we want to make sure that we react as quickly as possible. So I want to thank you for your participation in your busy schedule, in that, but it makes us more efficient.
Thank you.
And the buildings that are south of Peninsula Mill South, that part of the theme, is that going to be a part of the project at some point?
So the next building down, with the solar panels on it, right? I mean, that's one way of calling it. That you guys make. Oh, solar panels, I know what you're talking about. Is owned now by One Key. They actually had to make that, they had a choice to make. There's a connector, there's a historic connector between the South Middle and that building. And to please SHPO, a decision had to be made on how to maintain that connector. And so they decided to just buy the building so they can do that. They are currently contemplating a cannabis tenant in that building. But that, for me, just to show you that, the inbox, that's late, about 3 or 4 weeks now. I haven't been back to that. So I'll get to you before I get to that. How's that?
I'm retired Friday, so after that, my schedule is like perfect.
The other thing was the YMCA building. I kept driving by and seeing there was continued demolition. It didn't seem like they were going to get to the part where they were going to be constructing, but thankfully they turned the corner and they're now constructing. So that's encouraging.
Yeah, I got to walk through it last week and it even looks better actually on the inside than it does.
So
on
that's
the
good.
outside.
I mean, it's pretty bleak there for a while.
Same thing, you know, those words fall over and stuff.
Wow.
That building has good bones.
It must have good bones, because wow, they. Well, like I say, I've lived in Norwich for 39 years now, and I've never seen so much activity, so thank you, and thank NCDC for all your work.
Thank you.
Brown, thank you, sir, for your contribution to the economic development of Rose City. I'd like to continue to move along on our agenda. Number 6, we have information updates provided to the board in the advance of the meeting. We have a financial update. Or are there any questions for Jeff for the staff on the materials that were provided in the board package last week? The financial update, leadership team template, and the customer service dashboard. I just wanted to just talk a little bit about the customer service dashboard. And if you guys want to provide an update with that, I know that's a significant project that we've undertaken and just give us some knowledge just in case we forgot from last time, if any significant developments happen.
The information that we provide.
Yeah. Do you want to share anything? First, okay.
If there's any questions,
No, I don't have any questions, but just in case you wanted to share something that you developed.
I usually talk.
I have a quick question on the LNG tank. It says they found presence of lead and PCB. That all sounds a little frightening. Then it said further sampling has been completed with no contamination. So what is the extent of that, and do we understand all of it for the tank?
Steve?
Yeah, so as it said, we didn't find any contaminants of that, so with the paint or anything, so we are going to proceed with painting the tank, which is, as you can imagine, with an LNG tank. It's a significant undertaking.
Yeah.
It has to be sandblasted.
No, I don't mean that. It just said that paint samples from the existing tank paint revealed presence. So does that increase the scope of sandblasting and all that, just, or that was already known?
It was known by preliminary sampling,
Okay.
so it's got to be included in the whole
Yeah.
project, yeah.
All right, but it's not gonna be some,
Nowadays,
it's not gonna be some enormous cost
it's
increase.
becoming commonplace with everything that we touch between the sewer plant, the water plants, anything built before 1980s, which is pretty much all of our infrastructure.
Yeah, nice.
It's interesting on the LNG plant, so we've been running that. We've run it a couple of times, we've been running it a couple more times because we're having a true winter for the first time in a long time. There was a while back, we were talking about, do we invest in this asset?
Yeah.
You know, because we had to fix some of the installation, we're doing the paint, we had to put a new boiler in. I mean, we've made significant investments in this infrastructure. And now there's, we're gonna test on the gas side, it's paying for itself. And then, so it's kind of nice to see.
It's gonna be 0 Friday night, I'm sure you know that.
Yes.
Thanks. All right, one last question here, and I should know the answer to this, but I don't. So it says for electric that we're upgrading the 10th Street substation with all the electronic relays. Is that the first, second, is that the last of this? How many substations are gonna get this upgrade?
The other substations have been upgraded, so the 10th Street is the last station to get the relay upgrades.
Thanks, okay.
It's a big project.
One of the things, just to expand on that, when we talk about capital plan, and we start talking about budget and things like that, infrastructure is the theme. The 3 substations, is gonna be working each of those 3 substations and the lines that feed them. Because again, we're building our foundation, right? And that's what's gonna support our growth going forward. We gotta make sure the electrons are coming out of the substation, otherwise you can't feed anything. So that's one of the reasons that we're starting our focus there.
All tying into that, bringing that work.
The sub-transmission line, yes, but one of the first things we're gonna look at are the transmission lines that feed that from Eversource. And so to make sure that we have power to the station and that the station functions properly when the tower goes out. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what you connect.
Yeah, that substation connects to the power lines. It's about 1.5 miles up the tunnel. That's all gonna be upgraded. Probably 70 or 80 years.
Section. Or, doing the substations, the grid is every bit as important.
Mhm.
You got any of the distribution system upgrades? There were two that you said were gonna be completed by the end of December 2025. Were they completed?
Just of the distribution system,
The first.
study. Yeah, that got delayed 6 months because we were originally intending to use our GIS modeling, our model. When we started working on it with the engineering firm, our modeling software is outdated compared to what's state of the art now. So there was a lot of manual labor involved in getting the data transferred over. So we're about 6 months late on that.
Both of them, or just like? There were two that were supposed to be completed.
What was the other one?
The other one was the, primary system upgrade of circuits 512, 513, and 515. That's the second.
It's,
On the distribution system.
yeah, they're both delayed because it's under the same model.
It's all-
It's
it's
the
all-
same model.
It's all the same model. Yeah.
More information, question in regards to financial updates, leadership team template, and customer service staff.
I don't know if this is a place to discuss it, but,
Of course it is, Mr. Wood.
Waterbury and Bristol have been going through some difficult times with their water system. Is there anything that we can be doing proactively so that we don't face the same problems?
I'll let Larry take it in a minute, but one of the things that, one of the things that we've done and we've invested in for years is, maintenance of our valves, operations of our valves, operations of our system. And I think it's safe to say that the main breaks that Brian's going to talk about here in a little while could have very well created the same situation had we not been, Larry and his team, proactively maintaining the system along the way. So I'll let you expand on it, but.
We're benefiting from 2 water plants in 2 different directions, plus emergency well, tanks, emergency interconnects. Same thing just happened in Stonington Borough. Route 1A, the one pipe feed into the borough, the pipe broke. Once the water tank loses all its pressure, the system becomes depressurized. That's when water can get into your pipes, as opposed to it can't get in because of high pressure in the water. Once that happens, it's full on boil water alerts, testing every outlet, it's crazy bacterial testing. We're lucky, knock on wood, that's never happened to Norwich. And Brian can probably attest that if there is a main break, unless it's, in danger of like taking out a house, we make sure all our systems have, the last main break, there was a hydrant like off around 30. We were able to overfill our water tanks, do the emergency interconnect, that kind of stuff, make sure our system is fully pressurized. And with Brian's underground crews and our water distribution, maintaining those valves so we can actually isolate the break. Waterbury barely had valves in place. The one they thought was gonna hold didn't hold. They tried to put a new valve in, that didn't hold. Plus we had a spiral concrete wound pipe, which is just a disaster. It's not a great idea, because once those bands rot, the whole pipe just comes apart at that point. It's not like just a crack in the pipe, you cut the pipe out.
We don't actually have any of that.
We have none of our system, so. We are lucky that we actually have plants feed different directions in system pressure. Not every community has that.
Nothing else that we can help you out with?
I would love to see every intersection that transmission may have a valve, but just back in 1920s when we put it in, they didn't really think that way, straight up transmission, it was all brand new at the time, so. Obviously a valve turning program, valve replacement program is absolutely necessary for keeping your system running.
That being said, we're gonna move on to our CMAC report by Commissioner Stu Hill.
Okay, well, luckily I have a short one this month. CMAC board met on November 20th and December 18th. The January 22nd meeting was canceled. The member power cost, member return for November was $110 per megawatt hour, which was 29% below the expected deviation to benchmark. The year-end project portfolio was below budget by 20%. Microgen had the largest shortfall as compared to the budget at minus 25%. All other projects were essentially on or slightly above budget. The overall project shortfall as compared to the budget was $1.6 million. I think it came in over $5 million total, but it was well short of the budget, mostly due to Microgen. As discussed in our November meeting, the issue with Microgen could be alleviated with a large battery project. However, that project may not be viable or desirable at the present time. I will request that CMAQ add an agenda item to one of the spring meetings to discuss the viability of the large battery project to replace or augment Microgen. And lastly, not giving any details, of course, 2 items were discussed in executive session that should or will have a positive impact on CMAQ, one of which will most likely make the news, so stay tuned. That's all I have.
Respectfully, I'm still. Appreciate it. With that being said, that concludes the CMAQ report by Commissioner Stu Field. We move on to agenda item number 8, which is the Economic Development Committee meeting was canceled for January and will resume in February with the new date that will be released by Simone.
Yeah, we're gonna have a meeting in February, and I think the initial focus, and I'm gonna work with Jeff on this, is gonna be to see what we can learn so that we better understand what's going on with DXC. DXC? I get those, it's not DCX, it's one of the things. They're closing, in the business park, and I don't think anyone really understands what's going on with them. I think that DXC itself is, replacing the first electric boat and then computer sciences and operating it. But DXC seems to be more of a consultant than an operator. They have a joint venture with Amazon Web Services, but I don't know if that's been exercised. I don't know if building is still appropriate. That's an old building. It was, I was a reporter at Bulletin when that was started in the 70s. And it was such a big deal. Governor Grasso was named Citizen of the Year in Norwich. But I think we just need to understand whether there are any options to keep it open at all. It is a big user of electricity and a big user of a big taxpayer. I don't know how much, how much electricity it uses?
About 1.5 megawatts, so it's a little over 2 million a year in revenue. Some of that goes through the wholesale power.
Yeah, but I mean, that's that's not as much as, for example, the prospect for Ockham Industrial Center. But the prospect for Ockham Industrial Center, I think, is going to happen, but it's not guaranteed. Nothing's done until it's done. The DXC facility is actually using the power, and that's going to go away.
It's much easier to retain a customer than gain a customer.
Yes.
Well, thankfully, we got Kevin Brown and NCDC, so hopefully we can get it. You're welcome, sir.
But Jeff said it, retaining customers easier than finding.
Absolutely.
But in this case, I think we all know that there are some corporate decisions that have been made that we probably can't reverse.
No.
So we really need to be looking at not how do we keep them, it's what can we do, which I think is your point, with the facility to make sure we're getting some kind of use out of it.
So that's exactly right. I mean, for example, we have a situation with Freeport McMoRan that had a very large plant in Norwich, and they decided to close it, and they just left it vacant. I mean, conceivably, if DXC wants to close their operation, maybe there's an alternative use. Maybe there's another data center to go there. There have been, I think I circulated to some of you folks, there have been articles written by a couple of people from Jones Lang LaSalle, one of the largest brokerage firms in the country, that smaller or medium-sized data centers still have economic life. Maybe we can find someone else that wants to do something. I don't know, but we don't have the facts right now.
That's what we need, facts.
Yeah, definitely. So hopefully in February we can
It's actually, March 9th.
March,
We'll do the next, close enough.
All right, March 9th. Perfect. Moving right along, we have some strategic presentations tonight. We have 4. But I just want to say, Mrs. Williams, you're welcome to stay. You can leave if you like to.
Okay.
It's totally up to you. But,
What are the full presentations?
oh, that's a good question, actually. The first one is the budget update and the schedule and cost of service study and redesign. The other one is the update on our water waste treatment plant project,
Okay.
the underground update, and the community impact report for 2025.
Amazing.
Okay. Recognize your time.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you both. So we're going to rehearse for like 2 seconds.
Thank you.
See you Friday, Kevin.
Thank you.
So we're going to do budget first. Sir?
Full circle.
Yeah. So, speaking of one little one pager here, and, I'll take it. Senator schedule.
So we need to make a decision in regards to how we're going to handle our budget drivers presentation. That can be handled at either the February board meeting or at a special meeting. Go through the operations and all of the support systems as we always do within the budget for 2027.
So just to give some background quick, and Jim's here for this. So we don't have the finance and audit committee. And generally what we did is we would do the detailed driver presentations to the finance and audit committee. Now, in reality, I think this is so critical, I think the whole board hearing it makes a lot of sense anyway. So that in its own right is the loss. However, you have G&A plus you have 4 operations divisions that need to present. It's going to be a solid 3 hours or so, I would say. So, and we can think about this, we can make a decision now, whatever's the will of the board, but we said, you know what, that's gonna either make a very, very long February meeting, or we look at some potential dates to do a special meeting specifically for that. So we can even take that to executive session and discuss it then, but that's essentially what's on the table. But I think it's really important as we go into the process to understand, you know, what those key drivers are. It's gonna be a tough year, there's no question, and try to get out in front of it.
There's a lot of different things impacting all of our different areas of operations and support. So it's going to be a significant, detailed conversation to go through all of that. So after we get that decision and go through all of those details, the next thing that will happen is the beginning of March, we'll distribute the budget to the board. And we'll also distribute it to the city, and that'll be included in the city budget as the overall city. At the March board meeting, we'll go through the numbers. So in February, we'll go through what's happening in the operations, and at the end of at the March meeting, we'll go through all the numbers and what the budget actually looks like. We'll also be presenting to the city council the first week of April, which is our standard process. We don't have the exact date yet. I haven't heard from Josh yet, but once we get that, we'll let everybody know. And then we'll look for the board to vote on the budget at either the April 21st or May 19th board meeting. And then subsequent to that vote, it will be forwarded to the city for inclusion in the budget. And the city budget is generally adopted sometime in the first week of June. So that's what the next 6 months look like for us. In addition to the budget process, we have also selected a vendor for the cost of service and rate design. Several of you were on the board a few years ago when we worked with Mark Goldham and the Utility Financial Services team. We've selected them to do the next rate track, and we'll be working with them to schedule a rate making one-on-one educational session coming up. We anticipate sometime in March.
I would say sometime in March, just looking at how busy the schedule is. So again, this is one of those, if you remember, we do 3-year rate tracks. And what we want to do is look at the potential of doing that again. The volatility is more than we've ever seen So can't guarantee that it's gonna be a three-year rate track at this point, but that's the intention and that's the approach that UFS will be taking. I think this rate making one-on-one thing is super critical. We invite the entire leadership team in addition to the board, just so that we understand how we make the sauce and really what goes into it, so that when you hear the presentation at the end, you understand the thought process that went into it, not just the results that came out of it. And then the other thing I want to mention too, so we're trying to bring a couple of things together as we have our meetings with the staff, and that is a detailed update on the strategic plan. Bill pointed out some things have gotten delayed, some things have gotten done. And my mother always told me, she said, never say you can get something done if you don't think you can get it done. So we're having those hard conversations at budgeting time here to make sure. I mean, a lot of things are getting done, but there's some things that have been delayed for various different reasons. So we want to make sure that our 10-year capital plan is accurate, that our strategic plan is accurate and reflects that, and that the budget reflects both of those for this year. And then the sheer volume of stuff that we are tackling and we are accomplishing. Brian's going to talk about some of the stuff just on a daily basis in a few minutes here. But also, in my 21 years in the utility, we've never taken on this level of capital. Going to approach $500 million in the next 10 years. So that's big. So that's just kind of my elevator speech right up front, because it's a massive undertaking, but everybody's dug in and ready to go.
So, how much did we contribute as part of our 10% to the city in fiscal 25, 26? And how much will we do in fiscal 26, 27?
The 26, 27 numbers I don't have yet, only because so many numbers in my head I can't remember. We are this current year, hold on, let me pull the, is it 9.6? I think it's 9.6 million. It was 10.2 and 9.6. It's in that same range.
I lost.
So
we paid,
Right
correct me if I'm wrong, but we paid 10.3 this past year.
10.3.
We are projected to pay 9.6 this year. Now, I just want to talk about that a little bit, because, I said, Jerry, look at me, because you made this comment before. I said, wait a minute, we're returning less to the general fund. But we return 10% of our gross billings, right, for gas, electric, and water. So if, let's say we return $500,000 less, I'm just throwing a number out there, right? Okay, well, at face value, wait a minute, that's 5 million less that we collected from our customers. So the community saved $5 million. However, so it's kind of like points on your credit card, right? You have to spend money on your credit card in order to get the points. So it's good news, bad news. It's bad news in the fact there's less going to the general fund. It's good news in the fact that our community saved money. And the way this winter's going, the next year is probably going to be back up again, because the amount of energy we have to buy, the gas side, this is going to be unprecedented, I think, in the last 10 years. But I just want to make that clarification. And again, we can expand on that in detail if you want to look at it, but it's not, the additional money in the city isn't free. We have to assess essentially 10 times that in bills in order to pay. Does that make sense to everybody?
And we have no ability to change that or moderate it or to pass anything. I mean, it's just a mathematical thing.
It's a mathematical thing.
And a lot of times it's one of the big determinants is how much our cost of electricity, gas is.
it's a huge driver, and that is what drove that over $10 million contribution in fiscal 25. There's a lag. So the fiscal 23 revenues are where the fiscal 25 payment comes from. And that is when the cost of energy was astronomical.
Yes.
We had that global high costs, and we had therefore significantly high billings to our customers, which returned, a 10% to the city. So we're on target, certainly, especially with the current revenue that we'll be billing out. So that's just how that process works. It's not something that we have any control over and that we can't change, because we said can't change that number. It's math.
And so one of the things that is sort of a constant area of questioning on my part in different aspects is the rate stabilization fund at CMED. My understanding is the rate stabilization fund at CMAC does not exist as a general fund. It is a fund that has individual amounts of money for NPU and Groton and Jewett City and so forth and so on. And that it earns income from CMAC. My question is, just because it's effectively an off-balance sheet fund, should we be doing 10% of that income as well? To comply with the charter?
So if there is income to NPU, utility income to NPU. So it is for our rate, so grant dollars. We don't pay 10% on grant revenue. We pay 10% on the utility revenue. So it depends. So if, I would have to look at, is interest rate, I think interest income is below the line, so it wouldn't be part
The
of.
10%
that
payment
10%.
is based on gross revenues.
And the charter specifically.
Right.
It's not revenue.
Yep.
Doesn't mention any outside.
So,
Well, yeah, I understand that, but
so
I
our,
mean, the fact that I presume John Dilda decided to work with CMEC to have an off-balance sheet account.
so the rate
Doesn't mean you
stabilization.
shouldn't be paying on the income.
Yeah, so the rate stabilization fund, we use those dollars to balance out our costs of electricity. We have 180 days
Right.
of cash on hand to cover the cost of electricity, 90 days here and 90 days in that rate stabilization fund. The two funds work together.
Oh, I understand that.
In regards to the 10% payment to the city, we work with our auditors to go through our financials, and it's all based on our utility revenues. It's based right from our audited financials. So it's our gross revenues from gas, electric, and water for those billings. Interest income is a separate portion of that. It's not part of that calculation. So it's all based on our audited financials.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sewer part of it?
No, sewer is not. Sewer has a whole different set of regulations. It is not part of that.
There was even a time, Jerry, when we had two separate commissions. We had to convene as the authority for the other three, and then the authority for sewer.
But also, tax on sewer is illegal because of the state, so I mean, we can't calculate whether we thought it should be or should not be.
Right now, on wastewater treatment plant projects.
Good evening. Pinch hitting for Matt Ross tonight. He is away, so I will do my best. So first slide, that big hole in the ground is where the two small clarifiers and pump house from 1955 were. That's the generator building, the SCR, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. So just kind of remember that picture. Right now, the next 4 to 6 months is going to be straight up demolition of existing facilities and a lot more pile driving. The pile driver was supposed to be back on site last week, but beginning of this week, but the weather kind of held that one. So yeah, just a picture. It's the plant's moving fast. We're about 60% complete on time at the moment, on budget, which is a good thing. That is what's left of the digester complex. If I can point, there used to be a small digester here and here. That's the big one that had the dome. That is just about empty, not even a week's worth. Pretty gonna start, if they didn't have the storm, they probably would have been off-site, the dewatering part. They're taking all the brick down. It's their leisure to do whatever they gotta do with it, but that whole digester complex will be gone by probably March 1st. That's the inside of the new environmental lab, which has everything, all the different stations, never mind, bathrooms and all that stuff. So that's kind of, I don't want to call it busy work for them, but it's good inside winter work. Doesn't affect the process, but it's something that has to be constructed. Next slide. And that's the framework for the new admin building. They will be connected. There's a handicap accessible ramp, which will connect the two buildings, but everything is well above the floodplain, so it is up in the air by the code. So, and that's that they were used as much from the existing foundation from the existing admin building. May not have the greatest idea. There was a little more work involved than we expected with PCBs and the concrete and taking it out, testing, taking it out. But the foundation is served to secure those piles go down, so the building's not going anywhere. And again, just a quick schedule. So the next two quarters are straight up demolition and pile installation. And probably end of the summer, the new circuit 512 should be pulled and energized at the plant, which would be great. And the UV disinfection system will be online by early fall. So this will be our last season of actually using chlorine. So Next slide, kind of just changing gears real quick. Rose Alley Force Main on Falls Ave. Brian's gonna go into more detail. I was just kind of showing the sob story because 6 months from now, that pipe gets replaced as part of the project.
Can you
But
describe, Larry, what's
Yeah.
hanging out, but not specifically what's hanging out of the pipe, but why it's hanging out?
It's called rack. So that whole bottom of the pipe is just literally bottomless and it just cracks. It's just 50-something plus years of pumping grit in sand and rocks 24/7 wore off the bottom of a ductile iron. I mean, that's a ductile iron, back to cast iron, but I think it's cast iron, right? Yeah, so it's just unavoidable, unfortunately, but just kind of more of a sad story that these affect our operations more than you think, but it would have been replaced in 6 months. It will be replaced in 6 months as part of the project, which is a good thing. So, but we have plans in place because that cuts across the marina property to replace that piece on the marina property before that breaks again. And then eventually picking it up from Howard Round
We've been
Park.
working with EPH because we've been down with Brian 2 or 3 times. I know I've been standing out with you in the middle of the night when we broke the main. So we're gonna replace it there's a new crossing underneath the river. We're gonna connect there. We're gonna end up jacking under 82 to get to Falls Ave. This is a very involved process. Brian and his team are gonna be involved in the lead role in putting all of this together. And we will have a new pipe from the plant to Howard Brown Park. And so that way we're not gonna go be digging things up in the middle of a new development.
So there's a temporary pipe there now?
It was replaced. They cut a section out, put in a section.
So the whole thing will be replaced?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Next slide is what we've done with the generator at the plant. Again, I'll try to keep it brief, kind of a long convoluted story. I think that it was an emergency generator with CMEC because they were using it to push power back on the grid. It's not my wheelhouse, so forgive me if I say the wrong words.
This was like a, we have microgen units in CMEC. This was a deal way back when to essentially install a generator that could feed the plant. It could also, provide power at peak times for CMEC. So it was a win-win. It no longer made financial sense for CMEC. So we actually negotiated this fall to acquire that from them for, I think, a whopping $2,100. But again, we had fully depreciated it. So one of the big objectives here is to have backup power for the plant. And that was not part of the approved design. For whatever reason, we wanted to bring 2 circuits in. Once you lose 1 circuit, you're only 1 pole hit away from losing the 2nd circuit. And Steve and I talked about it at length. This is on the top of the list of things that would keep me up at night.
So the decision made is because the building that the generator is not flood proofed and it's not on piles. And the cost of ripping that building down, building a new one is far more expensive than connecting 512 for a different circuit, different substation. Having said that, it's, yeah, but having said that, what could happen in a hurricane could lose both circuits. The new plant design cannot not have power. I mean, right now it's gravity fed. We can sustain 2, 4, 6 hours without power, still being biological process. The new plant, it's minutes because it comes into a pump chamber and it's pumped up through the process. Having said that, generator is fairly old. It hasn't been run under full load 6, 7 years. It's a 2.5 megawatt generator. The plant's barely a 0.5 megawatt. That was really there to push power back. The new plant will be like 2.2 megawatts at full blown. So we wanted to, before we dumped any money in this generator, we want to actually test it. So we did a field testing. We, with the electric department and Matt, they set up a low bank test, ran it under full load for a couple hours, no issues. The generator started fine. Then we did there was some issues with when we lost power, the generator not coming on because the control system is 15 years old and fairly outdated. So they did a low drop test and now that we lose circuit 614, we know that generator is going to start. But having it start is a different issue with these. So we did back in 2002, CMEC always owned the SCR, which is the selective catalytic recovery. So basically, it gets rid of the carbon emissions, nitrogen oxide emissions. That's with the big stack. And that had a failure back in 2022. And then it ran after that, which we didn't know that was even a failure. So CMEC got a notice of violation, so did NPU as the permit holder because it's on our property. So we can no longer use it. So DEEP did give us permission for 2 days, up to 8 hours of doing all the testing we wanted with this generator to prove that it works. Now that we prove that the generator functions correctly, we have to put in a new control system and a new SCR. So that's the next steps with that generator.
One transfer switch.
Yeah, there's a recloser, that's, I will say that there's a recloser on the lines, which is actually.
The controls are mainly associated with the exhaust treatment. It's like modern diesel pickup. You gotta have an exhaust treatment system.
Yeah.
And then, so now the controls on the engine have to match the exhaust treatment system, so the two work together. It was a huge success. I mean, we had our electric operations team there, we had our SCADA people there, we had wastewater there, we had, it was a huge. But we covered the majority of this in-house, which was really.
Yeah, it was a long day Saturday.
But to answer your question, the controls are really gonna be around the emissions and making this compliant so that we can run it on a routine basis.
My question is more on, you're gonna be running a double-ended substation with 2 feeders, basically, right? That feed that facility?
Yes.
Okay. And the generator is gonna be supplemental in case both of us.
Absolutely.
So if one loses it, the tie closes, it still goes.
Correct.
All right. Lose both, generator's gonna kick in. Try to feed the facility.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So what you have to do with that generator, you have to run it once a month to verify it works or let it sit for months.
I think that was generally, that's what we do with all our other generators, we test them monthly.
But we haven't been allowed to use this one because of the violation.
Sure, but once it becomes emergency power, then you're.
Yes, absolutely tested monthly.
Under the load.
Absolutely.
Versus just running. That's
What do you load it with?
loaded with the plant.
Really? So you disconnect both feeders coming in temporarily from the generator.
That's the test they did on Saturday.
But they used to load, a temporary load bank here, is that right?
Yeah, we had to rent those. Yeah, that's, there was a big one, small one, and a transformer that we had.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you did the load bank first, make sure the unit was good, and it's not gonna damage it.
Yeah.
Then you disconnected the load bank, and then you simulated a double outage to the plant. And the generator started,
Yeah.
and it took on the load. And so like you would do in the monthly drop test or the.
Yeah, that's what I do. I got 11 that I run monthly. And,
Yeah.
we have some that are run under no load, which is not the best way. And I have some that have the low bank, my more modern generator for that, they call it the engineering technology building that state gave us a lot of money for. That has a low bank on it. And then there's others I run, that we use the partial load. I think that a combination, I still think you guys should have a low bank in there in case there's some critical process where you can't drop it if you have a problem with your switch gear or whatever. That way it's a backup.
So we'll move right along to the underground update.
So while Brian comes up, one of the things that we talked about and that I wanted to do was bring a lot of folks such as, Brian's crew does a ton, when I talk about getting stuff done, his crew does a ton of this work, you're gonna see them. So I wanted an opportunity for the board to get to meet Brian, I think the first time we've gotten to speak to the board directly. But we spent a lot of time out in the field at night, and just wanted you guys to kind of, I think this is important, not just hearing from us, but hearing from the people that are out there.
Like that. My name is Brian Hedler, General Foreman, Gas Water Sewer Distribution. We just wanted to show what we've done over the last, basically this winter so far, the last 2 months, December and January, some of the highlights we've done. But first, what we do in a typical winter, I'll just go into a little bit. A typical construction season is, the summertime where we'll start out in April and work till November or December, whenever the winter weather sets in on us. During that time, we also have additional contractors that are assisting our operations and getting our annual pipe in, that sort of forth. But as you can see, the local asphalt plants usually close some point in December timeframe, so that usually slows down the work out on the streets. During the winter, we also, what we'll do is we'll perform all of our gas operations, our OQs. Those are annual tests that the guys have to take. That requires online courses that they to go through and then they can retest. We also have hands-on testing along with some pipe joining. Other things that we do in the department throughout the winter is we do annual gas valve exercising. We survey our cast iron system looking for leaks. We perform maintenance on the equipment during the off season, and we also perform snow removal, not only at this facility, but all the satellite facilities that NPD owns. We also have some emergency valves we check through the winter, bridge inspections. We actually go out and inspect about 800 gas valves annually. That's a
15th of our system. We also complete some brush cutting. So get into the first highlight of one of our larger projects we had for emergency this year was down at Falls Ave, the Rose Alley forced sewer main, as we spoke about just a few minutes ago. 24-inch forced sewer main broke basically from the eroded bottom. Basically, a longitudinal crack occurred at the bottom, pipe cracked out, and we had to leak. The response we had was about 9 MPU underground crews. That's helping out on that typical day. We had our mark-out technicians there doing an emergency ticket. We had to locate all of our existing facilities underground nearby. We had sewer operators and mechanics assisting in shutting down the pump stations. We worked with septic haulers to move some of the raw material that's typically being pumped. Hopefully we got most of it to the plant.
Raw material.
Well put.
Raw materials.
This particular was a full length. It was about 20 feet long we replaced. And it took about 12 hours for the crews to complete that process. The next is a water main leak we had right after Christmas and between New Year's. It was a 6-inch cast iron water main. This one was typically challenging as it came in about midnight. It was about 12 to 15 degrees when we started, 20 mile an hour winds. As you can see in the video, it was taken as the water main was leaking. Shortly thereafter, this froze, created ice condition from basically the Water Street Bridge all the way down to Howard T. Brown Park. We had to bring in the DOT arrived with some salt trucks. They were assisting us in trying to salt and control the road so we could keep some traffic flowing because we had about 6 inches of ice all the way across the road, curb to curb. We brought in some of our own salt trucks and crews to peel it all off, and we maintained that throughout the projects. Some of the other notable things on this is being a state road, we actually went to New Haven to get hot mix during the day, and we ended up paving the road at 8 o'clock. We were able to open up the road back to full traffic by the end of the day.
When Brian talks about hot mix, it's paved essentially like you put in the summer, so you get a good product. We're not going back and filling potholes all the time.
Yeah, we have two types of cold mix that we use in the winter time, and then the hot mix. Hot mix is typically what we use throughout the summer while we're doing our normal plant construction. There's only limited plants that are open year round. Depending on the time of the winter, New Haven is open right now. February, Providence is open, so we have to go and source some mix depending. They all close at one point for the winter for their annual maintenance as well. So we need to know where to source that material on any state road. That's required whenever we excavate a state road. Next one was a smaller 2-inch cast iron water main break we experienced the 1st of January. This one was actually very close to our 30-inch transmission line in Basra. We had 12 underground crews that came out along with our mark-out crew and some water operators who came out to assist. This one's a little challenging as it was 9 feet deep. This is basically essentially next to in Fitchville Road over there by Maine's Country Store. Yep. Again, state road, hot mix. We had to go source some material. We ended up replacing about 12 feet of main that night. There not only was a punctual crack, but also a ring crack. It was very wet ground, cold that night, and there was a challenge just to get that all under wraps. About 14 hours total for that repair. One of the larger events we actually just experienced was a gas main leak. We found this one during a leak survey that we performed. This leak was in the section of North Main, Boswell area. The challenge with this one, about 9 inches of asphalt, 9 inches of concrete. This is Route 12, the old military highway. Original concrete from post-war. So that it presents a challenge in itself when we have to excavate out on this road. It took about a good 45 minutes, as you can see in the video, to jackhammer the road, just so we could get to the earth and the ground. Then we could further pinpoint the gas leak. While we were doing all this, we had field service techs, fire department, police department assisting us due to the leak migration. We had gas readings near buildings, so we consider what a grade 1 leak is. This is consistently monitored while we're working the site. Manny's was evacuated out of precaution during this. There was no gas inside the building, but we did evacuate the building out of precaution near the building.
I just finished my meal. Nice close to place. I was wondering, I said, what's that probe they got going into the ground? That was the leak detector, right?
So that would be, yeah, it's called a jack plunger, a bang bar, so that will actually, a steel rod penetrates a very small 1/4-inch diameter hole, into subsurface. And then we can take our combustible gas indicator and we have a probe that we stick in so we can actually get physical gas readings underground, near the source.
Yeah, I was wondering, same, like that, what are they doing?
Yeah, that will tell us our percent gas underground, and then we can also take it in atmosphere, but pinpointing a gas leak, we have to monitor where the gas is, which would be coming from the underground source.
Good job, thank you.
If you can see in the top right photo, it's a little small there, I understand, but you can see some of the guys, they're in their full FR suits. Those blue lines, those are light bear lines. These guys wear the same equipment as like the fire department does going into burning buildings. So we supply the guys with light bear. You can see the two gentlemen in the back in the white hoods. That was the actual physical leak. They're over there cleaning the pipe, preparing for the repair clamp that we install. And all this work is done live. The gas main does never get shut down. All gas work is always live.
So this is actively leaking while
This
there's
is an active leak the whole time.
That's funny.
Well, so this leak was, in this particular area is what we call wall-to-wall pavement, where basically there is no lawns or anywhere for the gas to actually vent out underground. So what we do is go back, we have to continuously vent and purge out the ground. So there's gas pockets trapped under the asphalt. We purge those out, and this one, as it was leaking, and the amount of gas leak actually took us 10 days, constant monitoring, purging, and venting the ground to fully evacuate all the gas from underground. This main is actually scheduled to be replaced in our 2026 project. We started some of the gas lines this current past construction season, and will be completed this year. So this is a 1940-ish cast iron gas main that has been scheduled in our dent replacement program along with our Bismuth grant.
one of the things I want to point out too, I remember when it started 20 years ago, went to the first 30-inch main break coming in from Deep River, and it took like 30 hours to replace that. You've got that, what's the takedown though?
Depending on the complexity, location, we've done one, the last one we did, we had, like Larry indicated, we have both reservoirs. Actually, the complexity is making sure both reservoirs up, filling all the water tanks, ensuring the liability that all the water system is secure. I think the repair was under 8 hours the last time, about 4 hours for filling all the tanks, ensuring that before we actually shut down the transmission line, 8 hours for repair, a couple hours for cleanup. My first couple exactly, that was 10, 15 years ago, we were still at 24 to 30 hours per leak.
Obviously, part of that is the skill of the crew. The other thing is the investment we've made in equipment.
Yeah, some equipment.
We bought the 15-ton excavator, so we used to wait an hour and a half for a contractor to trailer an excavator out. Now we have a 15-ton excavator, we have a triaxle, we can tow it ourselves.
Sure.
So you're there digging in less than half an hour sometimes. And that really reduces the impact to the customer. It's something that we've done proactively, and it costs money to buy equipment. You see the hammer, digging out the pavement there, the mechanical hammer that goes on the excavator. But all of this stuff really helps our efficiency. And that's what, working together for years, we've improved, continue to improve on.
Yeah. The ergonomic tooling, that's key. We've invested in, doesn't matter large or small. We talked about this the other day, going to all pneumatic or cordless battery tooling. So we're getting away from the old wrenches and hand tools and all that, where everything now is either pneumatic or battery operated. So it's all there at your fingertips. We're investing in fasting cutting equipment. So on a 30-inch water main, you used to cut it with what they call demo saws, and it was about 3-4 hours to cut. Now we have either chainsaws or track saws that can cut the pipe in less than 30 minutes. So we've invested in larger pumps, high fast flow pumps. So instead of taking 3 hours to dewater the main, we can get it done in an hour or two now. So
We get excited about this stuff.
all right, we'll move on to another water main break then. We had the one at the Stony Brook Reservoir, January 13th. This is one of the feed lines between the plant and the tank there on site. It's a 12-inch HDPE water main. It would end up being a cold butt fuse. This is the process of putting plastic pipe together, similarly we do our gas infrastructure as well. We believe as the heater in the iron wasn't in long enough, so when they brought the pipe together, it held for a time period, but then let go on a cold morning in January.
This was installed by a third party, right?
This was in third party back when the original plant was built in the 90s. The repair for this is just as simple as a repair clamp, so we were able to put that back together, similar as we do with like a ring crack style. We had the full 12 MPU crew there, along with our mark out water operators, and that was completed in about a 10-hour duration. 159 North Avenue is the Tapville Dairy Queen. We had a unique situation here. We had a contractor on site. He had a small leak inside the building. We arrived to assist them in with their repair. In doing so, we found another leak on our side of the system. So when we took over, we started working the leak. The corporation, so that is how the water connection service is tied into the main. It ended up being cracked when the earth was removed from it. The corp actually pulled out of the main, not from third-party damage, but from cracking, we believe, from probably a few years ago. And once the earth was holding it in place, once we took that earth out to get to access that fitting, it shot out, as you can see.
Unintended.
We basically we created a larger leak in preparation of fixing a smaller one, which happens a lot. You fix one leak and you have another one, unfortunately. The crews in the picture right here, actually, what we ended up doing was installing a wooden wedge into that port to limit the amount of water flow. We put the excavator bucket on it to make it safe, and then we actually had to do a small main shutdown for the hour to actually physically make the repair on the corporation. 6 crews. Six crews. We had our mark-out technicians on site assisting with the facility, underground locate, our water operators, and we were able to get this back up and running. Total time, 8 hours on the job. The last highlight of the larger leaks we've had over this winter so far is another grade 1 gas leak, 16-inch cast iron right out here in front, 77 North Main Street. This one is challenging as 16 inches is very large. It's our largest gas main. If you can see in the picture on the left side, if you blow it up with some more, you can see like that hammer. That's actually a 6-inch water main feeding the building. And then where the gentleman's upper foot is, he's resting on a 12-inch water main. So we're actually about 7.5 feet deep to the top of that pipe underneath a water main fixing the gas main. In this picture, they're knuckling and sandblasting preparation to encapsulate that 16-inch mechanical bell joint. This was sealed in about 3 to 4 hours after that was cleaned up. We monitored this leak for a few days before we took action on it, only because we were venting it, trying to get the leak to mitigate. Couldn't get our readings where we needed to be, so we had to make the emergency repairs during the winter time. This one was about 9 hours total work on the site, 7 of the underground crew guys, along with some additional field service technicians while they were monitoring nearby buildings for leak migration. All right, and then just to summarize, we've also had a few other important emergencies that we attended this winter as well. We had 3 additional 6-inch water main ring cracks, Old Salem Road, Will Road, and Pembroke. Both of those were anywhere between 10 to 15-hour repairs, each of them consisting of 6 to 12 MPU underground employees. We had 2 small water service leaks. We had 2 coated steel gas service leaks. Then we replaced a small section of clay sewer main that was backing up, collapsed over on the One Cove Street. If you'd like me to go into any more details on these, I'd be happy to, but I figured we just kind of summarize the rest of the emergency leaks we repaired this year. Any questions?
So how do you find those gas leaks?
So there's multiple ways. So we do a winter cast iron survey. So every month from November to April, we drive over our gas mains. We have instruments that will detect the gas leaks. Basically, it's a computerized system. with a laser in front of the vehicle, and it just goes off, that there's a gas reading. The technician has to get out and then do a further investigation where that gas leak is, using our CGIs, underground gas detections, pinpointing the leak. We have to grade that leak from 1, 2, or 3. 1 is immediate action, immediate repair. 2, 6 months repair and continuous monitoring. 3 is a grade 3. It's basically just monitored on an annual basis until the main's replaced. We also have leaks that get called in by our customers. On Laura Boulevard, they had an odor of gas. We responded, we found that the regulator was leaking underground, so then we ended up replacing that one. Dairy Queen, Dunkin' Donuts, 113 Salem Turnpike, that was also called in by what we call a passerby, or someone was in the parking lot and called 911 and said we smell gas, and we responded and pinpointed the leak, and that was what we call a nut follower fitting, basically a compression fitting with a gasket in there. It shrunk being cold, and we were able just to tighten to make that repair.
You know, the thing in, no, it's a more general statement. I think the thing in business, you think about your competitive advantages, right? By having the 4 utilities and by having the underground crew, they do everything from removing snow to working on gas, to working on water, to working on sewer. And I think as an organization, this is key, right? Because if you had to contract all this out, the expense would be astronomical.
Yeah, we're here and we show up and we will show up and you'll meet other third-party contractors and they're like, you guys are ready? Yeah, it's 15 minutes in north, we can be there over. So.
Well, your parents must be really proud of you. So I hung around with their father.
Oh, yeah.
We went to grammar school together.
Yeah, he mentioned you before. Yeah.
Your grandparents were really nice people too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a family affair. Everybody knows somebody.
Back in the 60s, we.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Sure, well, thank you for your time.
Very good, Mr. Ryan. So we have a community impact report.
Saving the best and the briefest for last. Part of our strategic plan is that we produce a community impact report every other year. And we worked with Minuteman last year, 2 years ago when we did it, and I think it was fine. We used that as a template. But this year, we used Simone, and she has the same graphic technology that they have available. We're able to do it quicker, faster, frankly, better, cheaper, in-house than we would have working with Minuteman. So this is a way for us to sort of replay the greatest hits of the year repeatedly. I told Jeff the public relations 101 is you tell people what you're going to tell them, you tell them, and then you tell people what you just told them. The more we can reiterate these key messages, these key projects, let people know the sort of things we're working on day after day after day. Singles and doubles are how we, I think, improve our image and keep the public informed. I think it can always be improved, but what I want to do going forward is utilize as many graphics as we can, like the great pictures that Brian had in his presentation, the videos, those sort of things. The water leak that we had down by Dairy Queen was viewed 13,000 times on Facebook. The North Fulton's public circulation is only about 6,500, if that. Most of it's outside of Norwich. The Day is about 13,000, if that. And again, a lot of it's outside of Norwich. Given the declining condition of both local newspapers, this sort of report is going to become that much more important for us to do. And I think we should at least consider or discuss doing it annually as opposed to every other year. Because as you've seen, and we'll continue to see in the months ahead, there's no shortage of not just activity, but really, really positive, exciting, interesting, important work that's going to be going on in Norwich for the next 3, 5, 10 years. That it's important that customers know how we are taking care of things, not just making repairs, but making the investments so that we're avoiding problems. It's easier to fix something than replace it. So I think we can continue to improve this report. Simone did a phenomenal job in gathering information, making sure we had the right pictures, highlighting employees, particularly in the community, is something we can continue to improve. And I think that this community impact report will be important for us going forward. In light of some recent coverage in the book, we also wanted to highlight on social media sort of the, facts and figures from the report. We put it out on social media, and we've had a very positive response to that. The report is available on our website, and we linked to it in a series of social media posts last week. Had very positive response to it. We've got 600 or 700 of these printed we'll get them out and around. City council has them. We've made them available at Otis Library, the Customer Service Center. We'll find other places to get them distributed over the course of the, probably first 3 or 4 months of the year. And then continue to collect great stories, great anecdotes, great pictures and videos to share with the public, going forward. It's labor intensive, but it's not crazy. You can't say labor intensive after watching that show. I mean, it's common sense, basic stuff that we're just keeping track of and doing a better job of promoting. And I don't think we're ever gonna have any issue in coming up with enough content for social media, these sort of things, and with the two newspapers going forward. So thank you to Simone, thank you for all the integrity managers that made this stuff available to us, and we'll just keep trucking along.
I like and share your stuff every chance I get on Facebook.
We're very appreciative.
I think that's a terrific report. The one thing I think that,
We need to clarify, I think, do a better job of the 10%.
oh, no, that's, I think NPU and this board, were the initiators of the Ockham Industrial Center. And I think there ought to be some reference to that every year, because that's a transformative.
I think that were that to come about, and when Kevin is able to make a big public announcement, when there's a shovel in the ground and there's a job created, we will, every week, every chance we get, but trust the fair. And it's getting. But we'll continue to focus on all the terrific things that are going on, investments that are making, and the hard work, and the smart people we have working here, great stories to tell over and over again.
Because I think it could be the year of the recap. I think it should be yearly. I don't think it should be bi. Only because even when you do your, Google sends a review every year, right? Spotify sends a review every year. The best songs that you listen to is the family that thing. So I think we should follow the trend when it comes to that, especially when it comes to marketing, given the volatility of things that's gonna happen.
Yep.
We need to make sure that we highlight the best that we can do.
Yep.
And stay ahead of it. So I agree with you. Every year it makes sense. So
Chris, you mentioned the newspaper, and did we receive any negative commentary on the compensation?
So that's interesting. No, and that is, I always joke, I'm paid to be parent. There hasn't been a single one Facebook comment based on a post that we had.
Yeah.
Nothing brought to customer service attention that I'm aware of. The Norwich Bulletin story didn't allow for online commenting. We haven't had anything escalated internally. No one has showed up at a board meeting. So it's not to say it's not going to pop up down the road, but I think for now we're fine. I also spoke with my contemporary, my friend at Norwich Academy. They had a similar exercise with their principal salary bigger than anything here. He said they didn't hear from anybody either. A little bit of snipping internally, teacher among teacher, who makes what. But we haven't had any issues. They didn't reach out to us on a salary story for 6 years. 6 years ago, we didn't have any trouble either. But I think it's always the sort of thing that can come back and get you 2 weeks or 2 months down the road.
Justice would suggest that the bulletin should look inward. Wes Edens, who I've had lunch with both times, ran Fortress Investments, which ran Gateway Communications, and joined the Norwich Bulletin, notwithstanding the fact that he couldn't find Norwich with a GPS and a Boy Scout troop.
Right.
But he's worth $8.2 billion. So that sort of puts salary compensation in perspective.
Right.
Is there, what I find, and this happened before, I had a friend of mine that used to write for the Bulletin, John Andrea. And he threw some spitballs the last time they came out.
Yeah.
And personally, as a ratepayer and as a tradesman, I got no problem for a guy who's cutting chips and spinning wrenches for making a decent living here, because he's putting in the time. He's living here.
12 degrees soaking wet.
I know, I didn't want no part of what they're serving up, no way to hell. But they're heroes in my eyes, just as much as the police and the fire department. I mean, they're part of our community, they're entrenched. But it's good that this last time, people didn't get all snarky about the salaries of our tradesmen. That that work their butts off, for lack of better words, and they make it on volume rather than a base salary. Some guys work enough overtime where they make more in overtime than they do in their base salary.
And you know, the reality is that the salary numbers that were reported were half of what they reported. There would still be people who were upset, so.
Welcome to the.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
there's more experts per square mile than any other place in the United States.
We weathered the storm and I think we'll be okay. And if we get criticized, we get a good story to tell.
All righty, with that being said, we're going to move into executive session. There's no action that need to be taken at the board at this time.